How to make an avoidant ex miss you. Hi, gentlemen. If you're currently going through a breakup or your relationship just ended and you want your avoidant ex to notice your absence or at least regret losing you at one point of time or understand when will she start regret losing you and realize that all the effort, loyalty, and attention that you gave her, all the sacrifices you made just because you loved her, shows her that she has lost a wonderful and a great man. This one's going to be for you. Although I'm not the type of therapist to obviously promote and try to exponentially increase your ruminating thoughts or bring you to a toxic route of vengeance that really brings you nowhere, okay? I understand, I get it. This is a topic that a lot of people want to understand more because it does bring you clarity as to what you need to do and what you cannot do in order to ensure your ex or your avoidant ex truly regrets losing you and truly realizes how great of a person and a man that she lost, okay? So hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Christy. I'm a therapist and a relationship coach. If you're old here, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please do me a favor and hit the like button and the subscribe button so that I can grow this community a little bit more, and obviously it helps the algorithm so that I can continue really providing as much free, valuable content because you guys need it, okay? You guys need it. Hear it from a therapist and a woman, the things that you need to stop doing in order to increase your standards and increase your value in a woman's eyes and in society's eyes, and most of all, in your own eyes as a man, okay? Self-confidence and self-worthiness is the most important attributes that is crucial for a man's mental health. So that's why I want to create more valuable content for you guys. So hit the subscribe button, okay? So firstly, before getting into the tools and the strategies that you need to use in order to get an avoidant ex to miss you, okay, I need to go over the first point, which is understanding this attachment style specifically, because it's not genderized, but men and women show this avoidant tendency in similar ways, but vastly different depending on gender. Now, this can probably bleed into not just your romantic partner that you just lost, right? But also your family relationship and also trying to understand how people work. So let's get to the nitty-gritty of what an avoidant attachment style really is. Number one, with avoidance and avoidant attachment styles, with any people that have this attachment style, they will have the tendency to be more comfortable with a lack of intimacy. Now, to you, it'll be felt as she doesn't really care, she doesn't really think about you, but avoidant people will purposefully create a space and a distance between you and her or you and him in order to create a bit of an arm's length reach of emotional distance. And this is all done with the goal of limiting intimacy, because once intimacy is limited, then a lot of the times that will mean that they will feel they are independent and still their self-agency is not under attack. Now, point number two with relationships, or how do avoidants act and behave and think within relationships? Now, it's a huge misconception that avoidants do not want relationships. Many of the times, avoidants do crave relationships. However, they do it at an arm's length, because most of the times when they are forming relationships, they have this need to feel close to people. However, once obligation, responsibility, the need for effort, the need for attention gets heightened, they start to pull away in order to feel a little bit less obligated, in order to keep you at a distance away from them and themselves as well, so that nobody gets hurt, okay? They are kind of wary of responsibility and obligation because it makes them feel like they are getting under attack with their independence once again, okay? Now, I've probably mentioned emotional distance like 5 times now, so I want to go into the details of what that looks like when you're dealing with an avoidant who creates constant emotional distance with their loved ones and with their boyfriend or with you, for instance, right? So, when they're creating emotional distance, that means when there's conflicts, issues, any type of really hard conversation that needs to be held, they do not know and they do not want to deal with it, okay? So those two checkpoints are hit most of the times. They do not know how to deal with it, and so that leads them to not want to deal with it, okay? They don't want to deal with the issues, they don't know how to deal with the issues, and so they keep you at arm's length and they kind of run away, right? Hence avoiding. And most of the times, what the world and other relationships has shown them is essentially not dealing with problems or running away from problems or emotional intimacy, or the need for emotional intimacy has always worked, okay? And so that is something I want to highlight, that most of the times this tactic is what they use in order to get back to their baseline level of their own worldview and how they interact with relationships. This brings me to my fourth point on understanding what this attachment style or the avoidant attachment style means and what is important to them, okay? Autonomy, independence, and their self-agency is highly, highly crucial and important for the avoidant attachment style. And what that really means is they're seen and known as the lone wolf. They like that. They don't want to feel under attack in any way or controlled or questioned. And sometimes this type of tendency and personality makes people, men or women, with avoidant attachment styles extremely addictive in the relationship dynamic because they are always the one being enabled. They are always the one having their partner make excuses for them or having their partner do more of the blunt work of making a relationship work. And it always feels as though they just have to sit back, be the lone wolf, have an excuse of, hey, I'm feeling like you're crossing my boundaries again, right? Other people without this avoidant attachment style are always the one having to kind of make excuses or negotiate their own terms or sacrifice their needs. And sometimes it can feel extremely, extremely lonely for the other partner. The very, very last point for understanding the avoidant attachment style, or a woman who has avoidant attachment styles, and I would say many of the times this is the most crucial point to understanding whether or not she does have an avoidant attachment style or she is really just not really into you, okay? And that is her fear of closeness. Now, as I mentioned before, people or women with the avoidant attachment styles do want a relationship. They do crave for relationships. However, they also fear closeness. So it's almost like a tug of war for their own inner brain. They want a relationship to feel like they have someone to support them, they have a teammate, they have someone to ask for advice and share duties with, but they also fear that person getting too close to their autonomy, attacking their independence, right? And sometimes the attack can feel like an attack when you start bringing up issues, your insecurities, the problems that you have when she kind of disappears on you one day and comes back another day, or how she can disappear on you for days on end and not check in and kind of just come back up. So an attack can feel like she has to change herself in order to be in a relationship with you, and that's the fearful part. but also she does fear it because her one thing that she doesn't want to lose is her independence. So how do you deal with this in general? That's for a whole other video, because it's really important to understand that most of the times with avoidance, if they are in love with you and they care about you and they want to make this relationship work, there will be a point in which you both are able to negotiate terms and needs and wants to the degree that you are both satisfied halfway, right? However, that's for a whole nother story, right? How the anxious and avoidant can have a healthy relationship, right? But the understanding of her wanting and needing to make it work is really crucial for you to even build a relationship with her. Now, let's get to the second point. Now that you understand what an avoidant attachment style is, and that she's not just kind of not that into you, right? How do we get, and maybe you're at a point where you realize you were too needy, you were too clingy, you were overly anxious. Every single time you had an opportunity to have a moment of closeness, you brought up all of your insecurities and all of your issues. Although tremendous amount of effort and attention was given to her, it was done in a way where you pushed her away, right? So if you realize this, I want you to continue watching if you want to understand how to get an avoidant ex to regret losing you. Now, strategies to get her to regret losing you or start missing you. It's honestly extremely simple. Point number one is a very simple one. With avoidance, space is where they're comfortable with. Space is where they start missing people. So having yourself be completely unavailable to her will make her realize that she is starting to forget the negative aspects of the relationship where you were attacking her, forcing too many obligations on her, forcing too many of your needs on her, and she'll start realizing most of the positives that happened in the relationship and start missing you. Why this is done is her attachment style is not being heightened at that point when there's space. It's not being triggered. Her needs to run away, her needs to avoid is not being heightened when there's space. And so normally unavailability will make an avoidant ex regret losing you, or miss you at least. Number two is there is a sudden emotional disruption. And what this means is when you're unavailable and you're no longer there anymore, there is no emotional disruption at all. So when we talked about the emotional distance and things like that, right? Why an avoidant is triggered and their tendencies is triggered is because their emotional needs for space and avoidance is heightened, right? So when there's distance, there is no emotional disruption. And most of the times, her feelings of being disrupted, or her days being disrupted, her emotions are being disrupted, or she's having a really bad day because you're bringing up a really, really serious issue, she will start missing you and you'll become the person that is more missable. Third point, if you want an avoidant ex to start missing you, you need to give her the freedom of reciprocity. And what this means is you give her the choice to reciprocate when she wants to. There's a freedom of when she will come back, and there's space of and nuances of her control, right? Of when she wants to come back. Now, it really focuses on the fact that it's under her control, right? She has the freedom to choose when she wants to reciprocate back, reach back out, like your posts again, right? And give you back the feedback that you yearn for. And this is all done because with space and the lack of closeness, again, she doesn't feel engulfed in emotions and issues and problems and obligations and the needs for effort and attention. And she will feel as though she has the freedom to give you that again, okay? So that's normally when the avoidant will reach back out, when there's a lack of engulfment and a freedom of when she chooses to reach back out. And the very, very last point is a very important one, and one that you need to have an avoidant ex realize. Essentially, the whole analogy of the grass is not always greener on the other side. Most likely, if you're going through a breakup and she's probably seeing other people and other men specifically, right? Because avoidants have a tendency to have a high need for novelty almost, right? Because before a relationship, there's a huge amount of space, right? Curiosity, unknown, and that's what drives the avoidant to have their avoidant tendency not being heightened. And so she will have the opportunity to compare you to others. And this is extremely unhealthy. I get it, but it happens. And it's so I feel the need to describe that this is probably what needs to happen for her to regret losing you. When she starts realizing that the men that she's meeting and the people that she's meeting isn't providing the same level of support, attention, or even treatment that you once shown her, she'll start realizing that the grass is not always greener on the other side. And hitting all 5 of these points that I'm about to say, the strategies that you need to use in order for her to, or at least needs to happen in order for her avoidant ex to start missing you or start regret losing you, and is highly crucial for her to kind of have that cyclical cycle of coming back to you and reaching back and saying, I miss you, essentially, okay? Now, this brings me to the third point of my video, and I think it's extremely important for me to discuss this, essentially after this cycle has happened, right? And your ex does start missing you, and your avoidant ex specifically does start missing you and does reach back, because they always most likely will. They'll come back one way or the other if you keep the door opened, okay? You'll maybe see her like your posts, start liking your posts, or start reacting to your Instagram stories, or start kind of poking at you with little text messages or memes, right? And start opening the door again. I want you to understand why this happens, okay? Why an avoidant ex will always come back, okay? And that the grass is, it proves to you that she has learned the grass is not always greener on the other side, right? What she has learned is that a lot of the people and the men that she has met probably didn't give her the emotional connection that she needed, right? And also, when she's starting to compare you to other people and she's not getting the level of attention, love, support, and XYZ from all the men that she's meeting, right? She'll start romanticizing you, she'll start fantasizing you, she'll start only seeing the positives of the relationship and that she regrets losing you, okay? And this brings me to a really important point. The reflection after the cycle and after the breakup that I want you guys to focus on. Now, reflect on the cycle and reflect on the strategies that I just verbalized to you guys. Although many times these strategies and tactics in ensuring that you allow the avoidant ex to go through this cycle on her own, give space, right? Don't disrupt her emotionally. Give her the freedom of reciprocity, right? Give her the opportunity to realize that the grass is not always greener on the other side. I want you to ask yourself, are these strategies that you almost have to fake or almost have to feel completely helpless towards, right? Really the person or the man that you want to be? If you're forcing weird tactics or you're forcing yourself to do no contact in order to get someone back, right? Especially an avoidant, she will come back. Is that the relationship dynamic that you want to be in even if she comes back? Do you have to continue these strategies in order to keep her around? Do you always have to act or force yourself to act aloof, callous, nonchalant, right? completely cold and emotionless just to make her the anxious one, the one that always wants more? Do you have to continue or pretend to continue to be someone that you're really not? Okay, let's just say she is truly an avoidant person and your clinginess and neediness, and you lost control of your anxiety in the relationship and you pushed her away, right? What's truly important to assess when a woman with avoidant attachment style comes back into your life is whether or not she is ready and committed to negotiate some terms and some issues and some problems that showed up in the relationship that led it to break up to begin with, right? If you're willing to work on your anxious attachment style and your insecurities, and you were overly clingy and you were overly pushy, and she is also willing to kind of negotiate how to satisfy your needs while you also satisfying her needs to have a healthy relationship, I would say with those terms, it is worth another shot, okay? However, if a woman is coming back and unwilling to even have an intentional conversation or negotiation about some of the issues that went on that led to the breakup to begin with, I see that as a huge red flag, because you're constantly going to be the bad guy that is pushing her away, and she's constantly going to make excuses for herself and using her avoidant attachment style or tendencies to avoid an excuse to not to drain the relationship of its needs, right? So don't let yourself be in that position again. Be honest with yourself, with your needs and wants. Be honest and take accountability with moments that you were a little bit too clingy and a little bit too pushy and a little bit too anxious. And also be cognizant of whether or not, if she does go through this cycle that I just described to you, and she does come back and she does show you that she misses you, and she does show you that she regrets losing you, not to fall for that sudden injection of emotional dopamine hits, right? Like, it feels really good for ex to come back, right? And you want to kind of go head straight into it, that you are being in control of your tendencies and having that final talk. Because I'm a therapist and I never want any man to go through a toxic route of unhealthy relationships and not take accountability for the things that they can do, and not force their partners that say they really love them to take accountability that they need in order to have a healthy relationship, okay? So thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. These are some of the strategies that will get an avoidant person or an avoidant ex